So without further ado, I would like to hand over to Stevan Johnson, who will begin at 3:15 when he is ready. Thank you for joining us, Stevan.
All right. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everybody that's joined in today. Hope it's been great so far. Thank you very much to Stafford for the talk that he just gave. Very informative about dealing with online tasking. And just to try and tie into that, I'm going to be speaking today about integrating the online tools that many of us have started using in recent times to face-to-face teaching once we return to what seems to be normality. So many countries are making the move now to get back to classes. I know within South Korea, we're going to be doing that soon. Just a little bit about me. I've been working as an English teacher here in Gangwon-do, South Korea for the past 2 years. So nowhere near as experienced, but I'm hoping we can field some nice questions and start a bit of a discussion about the tools that some of you may or may not have started using, and hopefully you could learn and take away from this, how you can integrate them into your classes. Cool. So without further ado, let's begin here. Today we're going to be speaking about, firstly, the benefits of technology within your classroom. We're going to take a look at some of the benefits and detriments to using technology in your classroom. Aspects of whether the technology is available, in what ways can you use it, what problems and solutions can occur from using these within your classrooms. I'm going to address a concept that I really want to speak about called gamification and balance in relation to gamification. It's the way that certain ideas within video game design can be applied to settings that exist outside of video games. And I think this can be very useful in the way that we design our classes and the way that we think about the players, the students essentially, and how they're going to be interacting with the information that we are giving them. Then we're going to take a look at the tools. There's a couple tools we'll take a look at today. Some of them I have used personally for quite a while during the online teaching phase that we've been through. And I would really like to continue using these when we go back to normal classes, and a few others I haven't particularly used yet, but I have researched thoroughly so that we could kind of throw around some ideas. And finally, we'll have a discussion to see what everybody's thoughts are on these tools and their applications within the classroom. So yeah, let's get straight to that. Benefits of technology. Why use technology in the classroom? So the benefits of tech are generally that there's more student involvement when there's something interesting for them to, take part with. iPads, if there's computer screens, if you can integrate their cell phones, which I come from a middle school context. I mainly teach at middle school, so I know how much my kids love to use their cell phones in and out of class. There are tools with applications that integrate into things that you can operate within class. There are quizzes, there are things that allow them to upload information, short videos, assignments, and just having these types of tools and methods of interaction for your students makes it a lot more interesting for them to actually participate rather than traditional methods. Okay, expanding cooperative learning. Students can make use of new opportunities to interact with one another in the classroom setting, whether it's interacting with each other physically within the classroom setting, or possibly having some students that are more shy and not open to interaction within the classroom. When it comes to these tools, they could use them to interact with their classmates in different ways, giving them new opportunities to take part in tasks. We need to try and improve student technological skills. In our modern daily world, there's an increased need for technological literacy. As Stafford was saying before, it's important for everybody, teachers, students alike, to know the tools that we are using in these modern times, whether it's for reasons being sent home to teach or learn from home, or even for the students going into their jobs one day. They're likely going to be using computers in some capacity, possibly to do all of their work. So having certain knowledge and know-how about navigating this type of world, whether it's training from teachers, whether it's training from the institutions, or just having a hands-on opportunity to deal with these technologies is a very good idea. And then offering challenging opportunities that promote risk-taking. So there's certain tasks that you can't really perform within a classroom setting always. Things like the classic going to a restaurant and ordering some food. Well, you could run a role play with your students, but there are benefits to, for example, this one tool, Flipgrid, which allows students to record up to a 1-minute, 30-second video that they can share on a topic board. And you could put forward a question to say, well, please go and order food from somewhere and try to use English in the setting. Possibly there are restaurants in the area that could use English, and the student could actually upload a video recorded by them or their friends of them using the target language within that setting. So it's creating a risky opportunity that's extra challenging for them, but can be extremely beneficial, especially since there is a direct line of feedback that you can get from using these tools. And introducing that into a classroom setting where you can review these types of videos makes it so much more rewarding, because you can point out points to improve, and you can share that experience with the entire class. Okay, so technology can assist teachers in developing interactive lessons. As we've said, making things that are more interactive, more students can partake. Organizing and grading. There are some tools that I'll be speaking about tonight that make it much easier to organize the structure of your class, dates and calendars, and ways to, send out assignments and keep students informed of what's going on. Motivating students for involvement, technology making things more interesting for them to actually participate. Reducing time gaps, so there can be more interaction between face-to-face classes. I see some of my classes once a week for 40 minutes, 45 minutes, and that's the only interaction that I get to have with them. Whereas if we can extend that interaction into the digital world, we could have a constant stream of use and feedback that would be so much more beneficial to their learning of English, especially considering I'm in a rural area where these children don't have the opportunity to interact with people speaking English as often. And preparing students for the real world, having to use technology themselves one day. So teachers need to be trained in technology. We need to understand exactly what the basics of technology are. As Stafford said, a teacher coming into the working world, having to work on a new system, a new piece of tech that you maybe haven't seen before. A lot of things are easy enough to figure out on your own. And if not, there are YouTube channels and millions of videos and tutorials online that can help us understand how to use things very, very quickly and competently. So be competent enough to use these within your classroom. Any technology that you choose to use, you need to try and find out where exactly is every single breakpoint within this technology so that you can't have issues coming up. Actively engage all students. You need to try and balance the way that you apply these technologies within your classroom so that all students can have equal opportunity to be able to use them and to benefit from these technologies. Receive ongoing training, keep trying to learn more about different tools, new tools, tech tools. Be required to incorporate into lesson planning. This is what we're trying to talk about. And be an expert of technology use, to know exactly how to use it and when to use it in situations. It's not always easy, but we can. Just a quick question here, and if you guys want to give some feedback in chat, what if technology is inaccessible in the classroom? If you don't have options to be able to pull up computer screen, a television to show any of these sorts of things on, if there's no iPads or phones for kids to use, how can we try and encourage students to still take part in some of the online technology tools? Actually, sorry, don't worry about chat for now. We'll get to that. We'll speak about this a little bit more later. But let's move on to speak about gamification for now. So gamification is the idea of integrating user-centered game design elements into non-game contexts. So in terms of your favorite game, let's say Pac-Man, for example, there are certain design elements when they are making the game to try and make sure that it is fair, that it is not too difficult, that it is fun, enjoyable, interesting. And we're going to look at a few of those aspects of game design that I think personally can apply to our lesson planning and design, especially when integrating new technology. So there is a games versus play distinction as well. So games are confined within a space, as it states over here, confined within a space. So within a classroom, a setting, that's where the gamification of something has to happen. And there are set rules. So for example, a task that you are setting for a student, to be able to complete the task, they have to achieve some certain type of goal. And that's already a gamified setting. It is a game that needs to be to be surmounted by a student. Whereas play is more open-ended with no rules. And you can analyze any sort of task, assessment, or any activity that you give your students in terms of the confined space and the rules that you can apply to it. They need to have goals and be outcome focused, similar to task-based learning, but the goals are sort of the steps along the way, the check boxes that need to be completed in order to say that the task is completed. So it allows for development of strategies and progress monitoring throughout. So considering your tasks and giving the students those check boxes, those milestones that they need to reach in order to say that the task is completed. If you can explain that to them beforehand, it gives them the opportunity to strategize and move quicker through the process by having it easier to do. And then an important thing when it comes to applying these technologies in class is multiplayer games and balance. If you see the students all as players within a multiplayer game, usually in multiplayer games, there are aspects of the game that are asymmetric. So one character can be stronger than another in game, and they need to be balanced in particular ways with positives and negatives. When it comes to creating lesson plans with the idea of asymmetry, you need to be able to give the same types of opportunities to all of the players within your class. So in the case of certain students being more prepared or a higher level within English, some students might be a lower level, and that creates the asymmetry within the class. How can you use the technology and tools that you have to adjust for that, to give equal opportunity for everyone to take part and receive feedback? So games versus play. This is an extract that I found just with the idea of gaming and playing. When it comes to seriousness, I think games would be more serious, as we said, with the structure, the set rules confined to a certain place, whereas play is something more along the lines of toys. So we just look at parts of games, the ideas of setting tasks as we go along and the balance elements of something. So it's not necessarily trying to make a serious game within the classroom. It's just taking the specific aspects that we find useful for our means. One of those aspects, as I mentioned, was symmetry and asymmetry. For a game like chess, there is perfect symmetry in the pieces because each piece exists on both teams. You can use those and it works just fine. And the more diversity that you have in starting conditions, for example, in a chess game, I'll just flip to this picture. If we had a black side with all of those queens and a white side with much less pieces, that would be a very, very asymmetric way to start. So the more diversity in starting conditions the game allows, the farther to the right of our spectrum it belongs. So diverse starting options, extremely asymmetric. So asymmetry, as we mean it here, is a measure of a game's diversity in starting conditions. This is not meant to be an exact science, so there's no specific formula to determine where a game belongs on the spectrum, but it's a handy concept to consider. So as far as the asymmetry exists within your classes, it's where some students have more opportunity, higher English skill as a base in order to interact with the content and make it through. So that's where balance is needed to try and give the same level of opportunity to other students. Balance in games can be compared to starting knowledge on a topic in class. Usually we try to group students at the same level to try to have the most symmetric layout possible. You can do this through group work. Usually we try to do it through grades and classes in different ways. Where it's unavoidably asymmetric, more care needs to be put into design to try and ensure a balance of opportunity and engagement for the students. Okay, I'll try to go through a quick overview of each of the tools here because I still would like to have some time for us to discuss some questions towards the end. But let's start off with Google Classroom. Some teachers may have been using this already at this time. I have been using a system for Gangwon-do schools at the moment called EPIK, but it has very similar features to Google Classroom. I just think Google Classroom has that extra level. So similar to what we already used in Stafford's presentation, it has Google Slides, it has a whole lot of ways to organize your classroom and to distribute materials. So let's just see, online classroom environment for setting up class sessions and distributing materials using a class personalized drive. So personalized files for your classes that you can upload. Announcements and calendar to set up dates to help with classroom management. All of your assignments, dates for classes, all of the information can be up there. Google Forms, a great way to easily give out assignments and quizzes back into Google Classroom functionality. And communication. It gives students the opportunity to communicate their concerns about any materials very easily. So let's swap over here to Google Chrome quickly. I have set up a classroom already. Let me just go back to the front page here. Now, I haven't used this with my classes just yet. I've just been messing around with it myself. But just to give you an overview of the types of things that you can do within Google Classroom, there is the mainstream, which is kind of like a Facebook feed where you can put information here, such as class will be at 2:30 p.m. on Tuesday. Instantly, that information can go out to the class. They will find it in their streams as long as they are logged into the platform with you. There are ways to set up classwork into different sections here. So just to show you again here, there's the front page with the stream here in Google Classroom. Logging in and setting up Google Classroom is pretty easy, by the way. You could just go to classroom.google.com, sign in with your Google account, and you'll be able to set up the information about your class straight away. For me, you can add subjects, the name of the school, the units that you're busy working on, all sorts of information. This is the main information stream, where each of the students logged into the class will be able to see information that you post here. As I said, class will be at 2:30 p.m. on Tuesday. You can put this type of announcement up. Similar to Facebook, you can add attachments Let's add a file here. For example, if you want your students to take a look at the information before they get to class, you can upload any of your files from your computer and they can have access to these types of things. Maybe you want them to pre-read before you go through it in class, post that information, and all the students will have access to it. We have a classwork section over here where you can create different topics along with assignments, quizzes, questions, add your material, and you can stream and put all of these up with information about due dates that's managed within Google Classroom. So let's add an assignment here. Let's say Padlet, because that's the next tool we're going to be working on after this. Please answer the question in the Padlet. As a basic, you can add a link, something that we will be doing very soon when we move on to Padlet. And you can actually adjust so that you can grade all of the assignments when they are finished. Let's just say it's out of 100. We'll set a due date for tomorrow at 12 p.m. Okay, and we'll add it to the topic KOTESOL over here. There are many different things that you can find, tutorials online about extra information on Google Classroom. But as a basic, it's really nice to know that you have the functionality of adding things like this. Sure. You have all that. You can add your content for your lessons up online as well, schedule your classes. When it comes to in-class activity on this, I feel Google Classroom would be a good tool to have on a on a computer screen while you are busy with your class. And you could show the students how you are adding assignments and quizzes and things for them to do, and use this to assign homework, for example, even just to give them more information about what is happening so that students can go home, they have their calendar that shows all of the activities that are happening in class, assignments that need to be due, and all of this information can go up and they can interact with it. So yeah, that's basically Google Classroom. Let's see, go back to sharing the correct screen. Cool. After that, we're going to move on to Classcraft. Classcraft is something I heard about online a while back. I found it very interesting because they are trying to turn the classroom into an actual game. And I'd like to encourage you to check it out yourself and see what kind of application this can have. But I have heard some bad things about Classcraft, maybe taking it a step too far, trying to gamify the classroom too much. So the basics of it is it's a gamified class context, taking classroom management and attaching actual game mechanics to it. There are characters that have health and powers and experience points. And there's a positive and negative reward system, rewards and punishments. So students are given avatars that they get to design and customize as they see fit. And those avatars level up and change as they progress through the classes. Now, Classcraft is similar to Google Classroom in a way where you can structure all of your classes online, and the students can, in their own time, go through that progress. But it's also a tool to be used while in class. So let me just flip over to Classcraft here so I can show you the demo class that they have set up. And you can decide for yourself what you think about it. So here is the demo class, and the idea that I really do like about it is that the students have the opportunity to personally customize these characters and have information about the characters in a role-playing context. I personally tried to use Dungeons and Dragons, a tabletop role-playing game, in my classes before to motivate students to, just partake in English creative speaking. And I know for middle school boys or specific classes in middle school, they would be extremely interested in doing something like this. But just for classroom management, having a character like this where you can check up on your student's character, and depending on good behaviors, completing online activities, being respectful to others online, let's say that, the character can get gold and experience points, which can be traded to better their character in some way. So the motivation is strictly to try and improve their character over time. And there are negative aspects to it, whereas handing in work late can detract from their health points, their HP. So there is a team option where your students can be in multiple teams trying to stay alive throughout their classes. And there are ways to try and protect them and help them out. So it kind of leads into students trying to work together to monitor their behavior within classes. So I like this for the aspect that if you can get your students interested enough and involved in this, it'll take a little bit of work from your side, but it can help to manage your classrooms in a way that gives them internal motivation because they care about these characters that they're working through. But there are a bunch of tutorials online for Classcraft, and I recommend that you take a look and see if it's something that you would like to or you could apply in your own contexts. But okay, after Classcraft is done, I'm going to start speeding through a few of these because time is running out extremely quickly, and I'd like to tell you guys about all of them. So next one we're going to speak about is Padlet. Padlet is a collaborative workspace where users can post messages, images, links on a digital workboard, just like Post-it notes. You can set permissions for each of the users, and you can differentiate that so students can view the Padlets, they can post posts themselves. There are multiple different layouts to this, so you could set it up as needed for any type of assignment. I've been using this to do my online assignments with my students, and it's been very fun actually. Let me set up the screen share over here. Okay, so I was going to make a Padlet for us to interact with now, but we are running out of time quite soon. So I'm just going to show you one of the recent Padlets that I've made for my students. So you could set the layout up in different ways. In this case, I set it up to shelves, which is multiple columns for the students to post within. I added a question for them. What is your favorite place near the school? Show a map of the area and give directions to your classmates. This is taken directly out of the book so that they could interact with the lessons as they've been working out of the books. I posted this map online that they could take a look at, and many of them wrote some sentences about how to travel to and what is their favorite area within the school. If your students have a Google account, their name will be posted up above every post, but unfortunately most of my children do not have Google accounts, so I've just asked them to write their names in currently. There are definitely problems with the tool itself at times, but if you work through your settings and you communicate with your students nicely, it's very easy to use. I'm actually going to quickly make a Padlet here, so if you guys would like to noodle around with it during the break, that'd be cool. So I'm just going to make a wall Padlet, and we get to set it up with our names. So let's say KOTESOL, made with magic. You can choose icons to customize and make it pretty. You can create a custom link for people to join on. So let's see, KOTESOL. Wallpapers, you can add your own pictures if you'd like to. Just gonna add cheer for the new year. Okay, there is an option to require approval. So the administrator, in this case me, whenever somebody tries to post on the Padlet, I need to review it before I allow it onto the Padlet. You could choose to have that on or off. I'll leave it off for now. There is an option to filter profanity. So any bad words that people try to use within this, you can replace that with an emoji to try and make it a little bit more fair. You can turn comments on for each of the posts for people to interact with each other. And you can create any type of reactions for people to react to the post so that the students can have an extra level of interaction if you don't want them commenting on the post. So let's just add a 5-star rating that we get to play around with. And that's going to be it. Padlet is ready. So let me just save that link. I will post it in the chat for you guys as soon as I could find the chat. And yeah, let's move on to the next tool. During the break, you can mess around with that. The next one we're going to be talking about is Flipgrid. So Flipgrid is very similar to Padlet, but instead of putting up posts with text and pictures, Flipgrid is short video recordings. Okay, so teachers can create grids, which is the setup for the videos to be posted in, and you can add different topics for the students. So the basic topic they put in is to introduce yourself, where students can take a short video, say their name and something they're interested in, and you can use this as a way for students to each have their specific time to interact with the topic. And because it's through a video service, the method is through video, it's easier for them to record and re-record to make sure that they are comfortable with what they're putting out. It works mainly with smartphones, so it's easy for the students to download the app and in their free time just to be able to quickly take the video that they want and upload it to be happy about what they're doing. Let's just flip through Flipgrid over here. So I created this account today. I have unfortunately not been able to use this in my class as of yet. Yeah, here's the grid that I created today. And then we could add a new topic and put all sorts of information and limit times. There is one topic that's already created in this, which is the Hello on Flipgrid. And you could record any type of response. If you're on computer, okay, my camera is not working at the moment. It works a little bit better with your phone. But I'd also highly recommend checking this out. There are many reviews on YouTube and tutorials on how to use these things. There's a page, especially Teachers Tech, that I quite enjoy. I'll drop that link in the chat for you guys soon as well. He usually reviews some very good tech tools that you could try and incorporate into your classrooms. Okay, after Flipgrid, we've got Kahoot. Kahoot is a nice system to create quizzes for feedback from your students. So it's very easy to interact with. I actually have Kahoot open here as well. See. Yep, so these are just some of the quizzes that I have made for my students within my classes. And it usually has a very nice process when creating, where it gives you suggestions on what types of questions you can be asking. So let's just grab the Kahoot for formative assessment. Okay, it gives you information on what types to say, determine what type of knowledge you are trying to assess, replace this with a simple introductory question. You can add some pictures to it. You can change all the answers at the bottom, and you can select which of those answers is going to be correct. It plays through in quite a fun way. It's beautifully animated, and there is usually music in the background. So the students actually enjoy doing this, and you get some very good feedback as well. As soon as the students are done with the quizzes, you can look at your reports and find out exactly what happened. Okay, I was going to speak about Floop as well, but I am over time already here, guys, so I'm just going to bring it to one or two discussion questions. So at what levels can these tools be applicable? Now, at this time, could we jump into chat, and if there's any specific tool that you have enjoyed looking at here, I'm sorry we didn't have enough time to go through all of them. I've misplanned my timing completely. But in chat, let's just talk about what tools and what levels do you think these types of tools work the best for? Let's take like 2 minutes just to do that. I see Annette mentioned here in chat that with Kahoot, students don't need to sign up. Yes, you can just send them a link and they can go directly into the quiz that you are busy with. I put the link for the Padlet if you guys would like to access it there. Mentimeter. I'll check that out as well to see. Ooh. Okay, Mentimeter is another one here that you guys can take a look at. Thank you, Stafford, for sharing that in chat. I know that some of these systems will not be ideal for university context. I'm interested to know what you guys think about trying to use these tools in elementary school as well. I know Kahoot is a very, very fun and simple way for students to get involved. And there is a way that you can run a Kahoot quiz and people can log in with their cell phones in order to take the quiz in a sort of game show setting, which is really fun and interesting. See, Jean says Google Classroom is great for administrating classrooms for younger learners, but with the caveat that a lot of Korean adults don't really engage with all things Google. So yeah, mainly in the younger student classrooms, having something set up that they can access to see all of the information and timelines about class, I think that's what's really important. But for older Korean students or adults, I think it's worth trying to convince them to interact with systems like this, because it just there's so much possibility to it. Quizlet, another good one to take a look at. Awesome. So yeah, guys, I'm definitely over my time here. I think we need to get into a break. But if you do have any other questions or anything that you'd like to discuss about any of these technology tools, the Padlet is open. So if you'd like to drop any of the questions on the Padlet there, I think we could also have a little bit of interaction. Once again, I'm putting the link to the Padlet in the chat. So if you want to jump on there and share any questions, let's all just get into the mentality of workshopping and discussing and sharing any kind of advice with these things with each other. So yeah, thank you very much for having me today.